Surveys are a wonderful tool for capturing research from a large population. If you want to get the opinions of 300 people, 500 people, even 1,000 people, surveys are really the way to go. The first thing that we do when we are conducting a survey is figure out what's the objective. We want to find out, we consult with our clients and find out what is the information that you actually want to know. Do you want to know how many people are aware of your brand? Do you want to know how satisfied your employees are? What is it that you are trying to nail down? Are you doing a survey on its own, or is the survey in tandem with other qualitative research? If the survey is in tandem with qualitative research, oftentimes we do the qualitative first, and then we use the survey to understand how applicable the findings are to a larger population. So, for example, in a typical qualitative study, such as focus groups, we'll talk to between 10 and 40 people. For a survey, we start with a sample of at least 100 and then go up from there. So if you talk to some consumers and you find out that 10 of the 20 people in our sample felt a certain way about your brand, and you want to know if that's true of the larger population, then we will put that into a survey and then push it out to 300 to 500 people. When the results come back, then we have a clearer understanding of how applicable the findings are to a larger population. The next step in the process is we tailor to the audience. We have to both define the audience and make sure that we are speaking to them in the correct voice. So, for example, if we are going to be surveying gamers about their usage of video games, we may use a little bit more casual language in our survey so that it's more relatable for that population. Whereas if we're talking to folks who are executives, we may use much more professional and formal language so that it is appropriate for that population. We tailor the questions to the audience, and we tailor the audience to the client. And what I mean by that is we work very hard to make sure that we're getting the right population for your survey. So if you are trying to define your audience, if you have a target audience in mind, if you want to know if that target audience is actually the right audience for your brand, that is a perfect time for us to do surveys and carefully plan out who are the audiences that are going to be taking that survey. The next thing that we do is work to make sure that our survey questions are written in an unbiased way so that we elicit the most truthful answers from our audience. The other thing that we work on is making sure that surveys aren't too long, because there is something that we call survey fatigue in our industry. And what that means is if people are taking a survey that's a little bit too long, after a while, they stop paying close attention to how they're answering. So we try and make sure that surveys don't go over 10 minutes long, because that's about the amount of time that consumers will spend taking a survey and actually giving it their full attention. Another thing that we do is we do a test run for every survey. So before we push out a survey to, say, 1,000 respondents, we push it out to just 50. And then we look at the way that the answers came back. That way, if there's any problem with the survey logic, if the open-ended questions, that is fill in the blank questions, aren't getting the kind of answers that we want, if there's any issues with it, we can diagnose that with just the 50 respondents. And then once we look at the data and that data is clean, then we go ahead and send it out to the larger population. That piloting saves us any time and also helps solve for any issues and helps us kind of foresee any issues before they become a problem so that we can make sure that we have successful delivery of the survey data and that data has integrity. The last thing that we do in our process is we present the findings to the team. We run complex analytics. Sometimes we may run what's called crosstabs or banners. So if you're interested in knowing, for example, how people on the West Coast of the United States answered differently from the East Coast, or how men felt about your product versus women, or how young people felt about your product versus older people, we can cut the data so that we can see by demographic how each different distinct group answered the survey questions. And that can really give us some good specificity for actionable insights. And then finally, we present the data. And typically our reports, if it's just quantitative, you'll have one report that looks at all of the quantitative trends and also considers any banners or segmentation that I mentioned. In other cases, if we've run it in tandem with qualitative, then you get a two-part report that looks at the answers side by side. So it looks at how the answers came across and the data came across in the focus groups, and then compares that to what is uncovered in the surveys. Surveys are definitely a proven methodology, and we recommend that you reach out to our team to set up a consultation if you'd like to learn more. Thank you so much.